right. Well, I'm excited to have Zach here with us. Zach is a real estate expert, and I've been getting a lot of requests to have somebody who's a real estate expert, and a lot of feedback saying, "Hey, bring somebody who's on that, bring somebody on that's an expert in real estate." So here we go, Zach. I appreciate you being on our show today, man.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Thanks for the request, everyone. Glad you guys chose me.
So one of the things I wanted to start with is just your backstory. I think your backstory is incredible. Obviously, you went from washing windows into real estate. And when I read that and watched some of your stuff, my thought process was like, my biggest question to you, was there a moment when you said, okay, it's time for me to bet on myself? Was there like a moment, or was it like a slow buildup?
It was a slow grinding crawl that sucked horribly. It was miserable.
Well, talk to us about that. Like, when you're in that space and obviously you weren't happy, like, what were some of the things you did to not let that like beat you down, so to speak?
Well, it started way before window cleaning, actually. So I was raised to work. My dad's pretty tough dude, raised by an alcoholic, a war vet, and just, horrible childhood. So my dad wanted me to be a man from the time I was, he cut me off financially 16. So by the time I was 17 years old, I had made handcrafted cheese, framed houses, finished carpentry, landscaping, mowing lawns. And at 17, I wanted to start my own business. That's when I started washing windows. But back when I was 14, I was mowing lawns with my dad in these super rich neighborhoods, right? So he worked as an engineer during the day, and at nights, after work, weekends, and so forth, we would mow lawns together, me and my brothers and my dad. Mm-hmm. And I remember asking my dad when I was 14, I was like, "Dad, why are they so rich? Why are we mowing their lawn? No one mows our lawn. I do it. Like, why is that?" And he's like, "I don't know, talk to my rich friend." And so he connected me with Clint Sherman, who's a real estate investor. He's also an engineer. He works on Hill Air Force Base here in Utah, but he's super wealthy. I'm like, "Dad, he's not wealthy. He drives a beat up old ugly truck. What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, he's just cheap, son." And so I was like, "Okay, cool." So I asked him at 14, and he told me to read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad at 14 years old. So I did. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and my little brain processed as much of the information as it could, but my brain started to work like, okay, well, I want to have financial success. Maybe I should get into real estate. And my brain started to work at that young age, and I knew I needed to have my own business. So when I was 17 years old and I was cut off financially, I'm trying to do school. I'm trying to, I was trying to get straight A's so my dad didn't kill me. And I was trying to do basketball, and I was trying to go on dates with beautiful women, but that didn't happen very often because I didn't have any money. And I was a nerdy 17-year-old. And I just struggled, right, to do it all. And trading an hour for $7, I just didn't have enough hours to give to cover my expenses. So I knew I needed to start my first business. And so that's when I started the window cleaning business.
Right.
So, I did that for almost 10 years. And, but my little brain was already wanting to do real estate, but I had to have something to pay the bills. And so, that journey of 10 years of washing windows, halfway through is when I really started jumping into real estate as well. So,
well, plus you were also like looking inside of buildings from the outside, right? So you're constantly surrounded by real estate doing that job.
And I was meeting extremely wealthy people. I met the COO or the CEO of Vista Outdoors, which is, they own the majority of the outdoor industry stuff. You should have seen his house is insane. Like, I met just the most wealthy people here in the state. So then I was surrounded more by wealth, and I was like, man, like, this sucks. Like, and I talked to these wealthy people. Are like, "What are you going to do when you grow up?" I was like, I feel kind of grown up. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, I just wasn't happy.
But going back to that story, I mean, isn't it interesting that you had like your own version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that was the book that they recommended to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that all the time, dude. I still talk to him. I love the guy. Yeah. So he's a goofy dude. He's just super lovable guy. I actually went to Alaska fishing with him this last fall. So, definitely helped me a ton. I think he has like partnered in his own over 300 doors himself.
Yeah. Well, and I've told you before, but most of my students, I assign the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad for a lot of people to read, because it doesn't really matter. Like, I kind of do investments, you do real estate. but it's all about that mindset switch, right? Like, not that I can't afford this, but how do I afford this? Right. And starting that self-talk that you have, I mean, it has to change in order for everything else to change. Right.
Yep.
And so, to give that book to a teenager is like perfect deal. Right. I mean, it's a perfect deal. You're already thinking about, how do I start a business at 17, 18 years old? I mean, it's a tremendous head start that you had,
Oh, dude, for sure. I think about it all the time. When I was in high school, I'm writing off my own work release hours for school credit so I could go make money. I remember I got to the point where I could make 10 grand in a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is incredible. But it got to the point where it wasn't enough, and I was trying to buy rentals. So I bought my first rental in 2012 in my early 20s.
Okay.
I was newly married to the love of my life. I met her in Brazil. I served a Christian mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil, learned Portuguese, met the love of my life. We got married and decided to get a house. So we house hacked, meaning we lived in one side and rented the other. We bought a duplex, and it was awesome because my monthly payment was like $450 and I could rent the one side for $750. So not only did I live rent free, but I got paid like $300 a month. Wow. Right. So that was awesome. And then I was like, okay, I need to do more of that. Like, give me more of that. I'm still washing windows. But then the bank said, okay, well, to do another one, either you got to move into the next one, right, and keep house hacking, because if not, if you buy another investment property, you got to put 25% down.
Right.
Or you buy another primary residence, which is what we ended up doing. Right. But I was like, this is not sustainable. And my wife got pregnant with my oldest son. And he was born. She's like, hey, I'm not house hacking anymore. I'm not hopping from rental to rental.
She's not moving every, however fast that is. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I'm your princess. Get my castle. So I got her a castle. Right. And I just hit these roadblocks, like complete massive roadblocks. I couldn't get more investments. The investments I had were awesome, but I hit all these roadblocks. Right. And this happened in a couple of year period of just feeling stuck and struggling. I tried flipping a house, freaking hated that, lost money, had some struggles.
What was the problem with flipping houses or flipping that house?
Me?
Hey, most people wouldn't admit that, man. I appreciate you saying that,
Oh yeah. No, you can flip houses and make a shit ton of money, but I didn't.
Well, it's weird because when I see it, I mean, it only takes 30 minutes. I mean, the shows I watch, it's only 30 minutes to flip a house.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we flip houses now. I've got a house right now that we're flipping. We'll sell for like 1.6 million. We bought it for like 700,000. Right. I know what I'm doing now. I didn't then. And I have a team now that helps me, but I made some mistakes along the way. And the biggest mistake I made is I didn't have a mentor, right? I didn't have someone that's been there and done that and has a proven track record to help people get to where I was trying to get.
Right.
And that's kind of what changed a lot for me is I learned about a way to get into real estate investing that fit my needs, right? It's how you can get into the real estate world with very little money. You don't have to get debt. You don't have to use a ton of money. You just got to find a deeply discounted property and you get paid a fee. Right. So I hired my coach, Tom Kroll, in 2017, the very beginning of 2017, walked away from my window cleaning business I grew for 10 years and I went full bore. And 2 years, I was making over $1 million a year because of what I learned from here. Changed my life.
So how do you recommend somebody else go about finding a mentor? Like most people listening would think, okay, well, man, that's lucky, but if I want to get into real estate, how do I go about finding that mentor or somebody that can help me in my area?
Okay, shameless plug, everybody. I'm a coach,
right?
But what I'm about to say is not because I'm a coach and I'm trying to recruit you as a student. Okay, so This is the filter that I use to hire a coach for myself. I hire coaches all the time. I have a YouTube coach for my YouTube channel. I have a podcast producer that also is my advisor in my social media content, and I also have a one-on-one coach that I pay $50,000 every 6 months to help me and direct me in my business right now. So I hire coaches still to this day. Right. So the filter that I have is first I identify, have they accomplished exactly what I want to accomplish? Second, are they currently and successfully helping others get what I'm trying to accomplish? Because doing it and teaching it are two different skill sets.
Agreed.
And then the third one is, do I like the person? Do our core values align? Could I have a cup of coffee, or do I think he's an arrogant jerk and I never want to spend time with him? Right. Which happens quite a bit. Right. So that would be my suggestion. And there's lots of coaches out there. You can find them. There's people that love helping people. There's people that that's what they want to do, not because of the money, but they love it. Like that's where I'm at. That's why I coach. Okay. So that would be my suggestion. You know, when it comes to real estate wholesaling, there's lots of good coaches. You know, that's kind of what I coach. It's where I teach people how to start with a very minimum marketing budget, find deeply discounted properties, and get paid a large assignment fee, right? A finder's fee. So, you know, my average deal is 30 grand just to find a deeply discounted property and just pass it on to a flipper or buy and hold investor. Right. And the reason that to me, that was the aha, like this is what's going to make me successful, is I could walk away from my day job that I didn't like, right? I'd have all of the cash and cash flow I needed to take care of my family and to grow my business. But I would be building a deal generating business. My business is finding deeply discounted properties. So I'd pass some of them on to other investors and I cherry pick my best and favorite ones.
So is this in your area, or are you doing like all over the place?
I'm doing this in Utah. So we did just shy of $1 million in 2021, right? We're recording those last couple of days.
Right.
And I did a little challenge in Tampa. So now we have an office in Tampa, but at the beginning of this year, I did a 40-day challenge in Tampa. It took $1,000 and the goal was to turn it into 40 grand in just 40 days, doing exactly what I teach my students and documenting it and putting it for free for people to watch. Okay. And so I did that. I made 93 grand in those 40 days. So you guys can watch that. It's pretty cool. But then it basically became another branch of my company. So I'm doing it in 2 markets, but I teach this to people all across the country.
So what was the challenge of that, the $1,000 to 93,000 in 40 days? Like what's the kind of give us a peek of that?
Yeah. So the best way to explain it, guys, is we're a pawn shop for houses. Okay. So people sell their stuff to a pawn shop for speed and convenience. They know that they're going to turn around and list it on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and eBay and sell it for a profit. Right. Okay. The sellers know they could do the same thing, but they don't want to deal with it. So when someone has a house they want to sell, 99% of the times, they're going to want to just list it with a real estate agent or list it themselves to get a family that wants to buy it and move in and live in it. Right? Majority of the time, that's what's going to happen. But sometimes people have a property that's a thorn in their side. They don't want to deal with it. You know, it's an inherited property. Mom was a hoarder. It's a freaking mess. And the siblings are fighting over the money. Right. And the executor is like, get me out of this. Right. So our goal is to find people that we offer value, speed, and convenience. They know they're selling it at a discount and we get it under contract for a massive discount. Right. Okay. Once we have that property under contract, there's a paragraph within that contract that says I can assign it, I can sell it to a different investor. So then I have a buyer's list of, let's say, 100, 1,000 investors within that area. I send an email. I said, hey, who wants my deal? And they pay me a deal. They pay me for the contract. So I sold 3 contracts, sold 1 contract for 10 grand, sold another for 30, and sold another one for 53,000.
Okay.
So that's 0 risk, 0 debt. So the $1,000, what I used it for is finding these sellers. So what I did, and I explain it and show you on camera, right, is I downloaded an app called Deal Machine. Deal Machine is an app. How do I explain it best? Well, let me explain how we find these sellers. So when a seller wants to sell a house for speed and convenience, they don't want to deal with the hassles. Right. And so if they have this house that's a thorn in their side, they're not going to go take care of general maintenance.
Right.
There's going to be tall grass, dead grass. There's going to be shingles blown off. There's going to be siding, peeling paint. You'll notice, right? You'll see the ugly ducklings in the neighborhood. So what we'll do is we'll drive through and identify those ugly houses and reach out and say, hey, do you want to sell your house? And if they do, then we go, okay, well, do you want to list it or do you want a cash offer? If they want a cash offer, we work with them. If they don't, we say, okay, never mind, next, right? So Deal Machine is an app where you can drive through the neighborhood. Imagine there's a Google Maps image and you see the house and you touch the house on the map and it'll upload all of the information of the owner, the owner's name, the mailing address, the property address, phone numbers, emails, everything you need, right? There's nothing private in this world. It's crazy. So we use Deal Machine. Okay. So Deal Machine is how we generate the list. And so my $1,000 was going to cover my Deal Machine. And then I reached out and cold called those people. That's what I used the $1,000 for. So
Okay.
I drove around, added addresses, and cold called for hours upon end in those 40 days.
Wow. Man, that's hustling.
Yeah, it was straight hustle. It sucked.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It sucks, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So when somebody, buys their first, what are the common mistakes you see people when people say to you, I want to get in the real estate business, and they do it on their own, they're not working with somebody like you, they're trying to tough it out. What are the biggest mistakes that you see people make?
Well, first off, they don't have a clear vision of what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So they hear this podcast go, ooh, wholesaling. And
right.
they dabble for 10 days.
Yeah.
And then they hear, ooh, the BRRRR strategy. And they dabble for 10 days.
Yeah.
And they hear all these different strategies and they don't stick to one. Right. Identify what you guys want, what you're trying to accomplish, and then find someone that can help you get there and freaking stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to suck.
Consistency. It's not just real estate, right? It's your workout plan. It's, for me, it's investment plans. Everything comes down to consistency and discipline.
Yep.
No matter what industry somebody's in, those are the keys to success. And you're right. I mean, on the investment side, people changing strategies all the time, becomes they shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm guessing it's the same in real estate. Whereas do you want rental properties? Do you want, commercial properties? Do you want to do wholesale like you're doing? I mean, but a lot of times somebody new doesn't know that there's all these opportunities available until they actually get into the business and see all the different pieces of it. Does that make sense?
100%. And I understand what you're saying. So let's say you guys get started like I did, and you think you want to buy rentals. So you start buying rentals like I did, and then you hit new barriers. Okay, well, how do I overcome these barriers? Well,
right.
Wholesaling became that option and solution to those barriers. It's okay to pivot. The problem is people dabble and give up.
Right. Well, I would think one of the major hurdles of like rental property would be scaling that. Right. I mean, if you got a bunch of people calling you every Tuesday telling you their hot water heater's out, I mean, that's got to get old quick.
Yeah. Well, you have property managers, right? And you just manage your managers. And the other thing is people might say, well, wholesaling sounds like a drag because you're going to have to grind. Well, it's like, well, I haven't, in the last 2 years, I've done well over $2 million in wholesale fees, right? With like 50% profit margins.
Right.
And I've negotiated just what I did on the 40-day challenge. I don't cold call anymore. I don't go on appointments. I don't sell the deals. I have a team. I built a business, right? A business that runs without me. And you can do the same with everything, right? The biggest thing is, can you generate revenue at a very profitable percentage, right? And you can put people in place to do it for you.
Yeah.
So yes, it can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done when it's not time consuming.
Yeah. And I think but that's still, I think the important point is that there's multitudes of ways to invest in real estate. It doesn't have to just be one way.
100%.
And I think that's probably something that, investors need to be more educated on, because I think people either go towards flipping a house or they go towards rental. I mean, I think those are probably the two number ones, right? Rental or flipping houses. And they each, have their own challenges, but kind of where you've been successful is you pick something, even though you pivoted, but you've stayed consistent to learn everything you can about those specific areas.
Sure. And it's okay to branch out. So I'm branching out now, but I'm branching out with strategic partners, right? So now that I have my core business and making over $1 million a year, well, I heard about flipping trailers in trailer parks. And I found this guy that's doing it and can finance it. And I'm really good at finding deals and negotiating deals. So we're partnering. Right. He's got his dealer's license so he can flip them without paying lot rent. And so we both make more money by partnering. Yeah. Right. And I put people in place to do it all for me, of course, but it's okay to do more and branch out. But like you said, you got to stick to one core thing till it's running and running without you before you branch out and do more. I had someone call me the other day about my coaching program, right? They have to book a call and talk to me about the program. And I asked him what their goals were. And he's like, well, I want to do giant apartment buildings. I want to do 200 units or bigger. I want to do one deal and net $1 million. I was like, well, I've never done that. I've never coached anyone to do that. I'm not your guy. Right. And so when you guys identify, but I loved that he knew what he wanted. He's like, good for you, dude. Like, don't hire me because I'm teaching you wholesaling. Go to the guy that can give you what you're trying to accomplish. Don't take advice from me. I don't know.
So do you get a lot of questions about like COVID and how that's going to change commercial real estate, and what your thoughts are on that? I mean, do you think it'll be a minimal impact in a couple of years? Do you think, like, is that something, like, is there an area of real estate you would stay away from?
So I just did a YouTube video on this, and I just posted it. And should we invest in real estate in 2022?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, you did see that?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, because it's the same thing with investing. Like, I get people all the time that say, "Hey, when is the next correction going to be? Because that's when I'm going to start investing." Right.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. It's like everybody, you want to wait for this perfect moment, and the perfect moment is never going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to be waiting forever.
Yeah, you guys can check out that YouTube video I did, but basically I said, every time I hear someone say, is now a good time, or is the market going to crash? Right. And I shared the clip. I think it's Anchorman.
Or Step Brothers, maybe.
It might be Step Brothers. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's one of some Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah, it's a Will Ferrell clip where he like kicks the couch. He's like, "What an idiot! What a loser!" Good, more for me and you.
Right.
So it's just a little movie clip that goes through my head every time I hear someone say that, because it really doesn't matter when you get in. There's no such thing as a bad time to get into real estate investing. There's only bad deals. Have I made bad deals and made mistakes when the market's super good and lost money? Yeah. Have I made money when the market wasn't so hot? Yeah, because I got a good deal. Right. Yeah. Definitely, I'm not worried about the markets. I'm more worried about making sure that my business is solid and I have plenty of profit margins. And if I do take on debt or risk, that I have more than 30% equity in every single deal I touch.
Right.
Because if the market shifts and I'm forced to sell, I have equity still.
Yeah. And I think, coaching people on how to find a good deal is, I mean, most of these, the money's made when the deal's made, right? I mean, like
100%
finding things that are good opportunities. I'm just wondering, I mean, do you have any advice on when somebody's looking in a certain area, things to look for or things to avoid? I mean, I'm thinking like very novice level here, that most of us, that haven't done it before are going to go like onto Trulia or Zillow and start looking for things. And I'm guessing that's probably not what you do.
No, I do not buy properties on that are on market, meaning they're listed on Zillow, listed on Craigslist, listed on the multiple listing services. I do not buy from there.
Right.
I go directly to the seller that's on the fence or has a problem and want to be done quickly, and negotiate directly with them. So I can negotiate the price of the house or negotiate the terms or the seller finance to get the interest rates and the payments so low that it makes sense to pay a little bit higher price point. So there's a book, it's called Multifamily Millions. And he's talking about buying giant apartment complexes. And he said that your business is not real estate. Your business is marketing. He says your product is real estate. He said if you don't get that between your two ears, you will not be in business for long. Right. And if it's true for giant multifamily, it's true for single family investing. So wholesaling is just finding properties at massively discounted properties and or massive discounts, right? Once you find that massive discount, then you can either wholesale it, meaning pass it on to a different investor for a fee, or you can flip it, or you can keep it as a rental, right? It doesn't matter. But it's like, if you get a house for 40 cents on the dollar, you kind of got to be a dummy to lose money.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So yes, the business is finding deeply discounted properties. And then you can learn the other strategies and exit strategies and all the silly terms that comes with real estate.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your podcast and your YouTube channel and why you started that, why you decided to get into this arena, and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. So I started coaching back in 2018. I brought on my first student. So what happened was I read a self-help journal that said you had to, first the first 100 pages, you create 3 big goals for the year, and then you document day by day, working towards your goals. And it's called Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy. And in those first 100 pages, when you create those 3 goals, it said you have to give away what you want to receive. If you want more love, you give love. If you want more money, you give money. So I had set a goal for 2019 to bring in $1 million into my business, right? Which was more than double than I had ever done, ever. right? And I was very new to investing. I'd only been doing it full time for a couple of years. So I went to my mentor, Tom Kroll, and I said, Tom, I want to take on this challenge of giving $1 million to other people. And I can't do that. I don't have the money, but I can teach people the marketing system of finding deeply discounted properties that I've been using in the last month or the last year. Sorry. And I could put $1 million in 10 people's pockets. Will you help me find 10 students that I could teach this to? He said, yes, but you're not allowed to coach them for free or they won't take you serious. So let's get you 10 students. He helped me get 10 paid students. And I started coaching them. My very first one, actually, Michael McLeish texted me back in September. So like 4 months ago, he's like, hey, Zach, I know your goal is to make $1 million for the first 10 students. I've now made over $1 million from what you taught me. So my very first student alone did it. Right. Yeah. And so absolutely amazing. And I started teaching them. And the funny thing is the more I taught them, the more I learned. And the more I learned, the more money I made. That year, we did $1.2 million in my business. I was finding crazy mistakes in my business. Like, to give you an example, we send postcards to homeowners to see if they want to sell. If they texted the phone number, I wasn't receiving the lead. I had a student's like, hey, Zach, I'm not receiving any of the text messages when they text our tracking number on our postcards. How do you set that up? And I'm like, shit. Yeah. Like, I have never received a text message. So I go in there and I have just a pile of freaking leads, hundreds of thousands of dollars I was just throwing away. You know, the more I taught, the more I learned, the more I realized how much I needed to know. And when they'd ask me questions, I wouldn't know, but I'd have to get the answers, right? I became an expert really fast. But more than anything, helping those people and seeing those people be successful and changing their lives, that was way more fulfilling than making money. Right. So much more fulfilling. Yeah. So I fell in love with coaching. So now I have a podcast and a YouTube channel and TikTok and Instagram and all that great stuff. So if you guys want to watch that content, I put a lot of heart and soul. I have a whole team behind me helping me with it. So TikTok is just Zach Boothe. Instagram is just Zach Boothe. My name is ZACK BOOTHE. My real estate YouTube channel is Real Estate Investing with Zach Boothe. My podcast is called Driving for Dollars Mastery.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll put it all in the show notes too for you. I have this, it's kind of a funny question, but if somebody's going to start, where, like, is there an episode you'd want people to start on? I mean, besides number one, like, is there an episode that you think, man, this is a really good one for somebody to start with?
Yeah, let me give you guys a link. It's dfdmastery.com/40 in 40. And I'm sure it'll be in the show notes as well. So that's going to get you guys access to my 40-day challenge of starting from scratch, an over-the-shoulder look at exactly what I teach people to do and how to scale, right? Ultimately, you can put people in place to do all that hustle for you like I have, but you guys can see how to start with very little. Once you get access to that challenge, I want you to go to day 4. Day 4 of the 40-day challenge. I cold called, it was a big day of cold calling, basically, and I got a hold of 3 people that I ended up turning into contracts, and I got 5 contracts because of that day of cold calling. That day alone made me over 6 figures.
Wow, that's good.
So I got 3 contracts that night, and I met a guy named Jerry, wealthy guy, real estate investor himself, had 3 properties he didn't want to deal with. I even had him on my podcast after the show, told him what I was doing. He loved it. So that was a fun day. I got really emotional. You know, I prayed before I left. I said, God, please give me one person that will be there, that they can see that it's wholesome, that it's upworthy. Like, I'm making a lot of money, but I'm serving and helping people. And there's, you know, it's completely honest and transparent. They can make more working with someone else, but they want the convenience factor. I was like, because I'd seen it happen over and over for myself, but what if I go there and fail miserably and I put all this effort and money and time and it doesn't work out? And so I got super emotional because it was everything that I had prayed for, and it happened way faster than I expected. So
that's awesome, man. That's a great place for people to look at. I mean, I'm thankful that you brought that up. I think it's important for people to see, you know, that it still takes effort, even though you've been doing this a while. You still put a lot of effort into it, right? I mean, you don't just get there and plateau. You got to keep working it. So
lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee. Well, hey man, I appreciate you being on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time and helping our listeners get a glimpse of what the real estate business looks like. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.